All right, it's 12 o'clock. Welcome, everyone. We're just getting started with the Southern California Water Dialogue. We have a great program. We're going to wait for people to populate. We'll start about 12:03. If you're just joining us, this is Connor Everts and co-chair and moderator for the beginning of the program. We are going to get started in just a few minutes as we fully populate the webinar. Okay, everybody, we're getting to critical mass. We'll be starting soon. All right. What else? All right. It is 12:03. This is the Southern California Water Dialogue for July 22nd, 2026. Ensuring water solve Western water shortage and funding challenges. And I am your co-chair, Connor Everts, with the Southern California Watershed Alliance and the Statewide Environmental Water Caucus. My co-chair is Dee Zink, Assistant General Manager of External Affairs at the Metropolitan Water District. This is our quick agenda. We will I will do our announcements and introduce our speakers. Then we'll have the presentations that run about an hour. And then we have the dialogue, which is the question and answer, which Dee Zink leads. And then I will do the concluding remarks at the end. Our Southern California Water Dialogues could not happen without our steering committee, but first, without our coordinator, Kathy Caldwell, who pulls this all together. The members of the steering committee are listed here. If you have any ideas for the future, please let any of us know. If you have compliments, send them to Kathy. If you have complaints, you can send them to me. We all have been on Zoom way too long now, but the webinar ground rules are to use the chat feature if you have technical difficulties. We're using the Q&A, not the chat, for questions. You're going to type them in and click. They can be addressed after the presentations. If you have a poor connection, move closer to your wireless and turn off any other things that might be using up bandwidth, hopefully not Netflix. Your audio is muted by default, and as well, you can't see the list of attendees. Again, it's about 60 minutes of presentation. Q&A, we should be done at 1:30. Again, to ask a question, hit the Q&A, type in the question, and you can, and others can upvote, moving those questions of greater importance to the top. All right, today we have two great speakers, and I'm going to set it off with Alex, who's Principal Water Resources Specialist for the San Diego County Water Authority. And then he, in turn, will turn it to Dr. Suzanne Till, PhD, Water Resources Geography. Thank you both for speaking today, and I look forward to the program. And thank you all for joining us.
Thank you, Connor. Appreciate the introduction. Let me just get this all set up. Okay. Well, I think that this is a great topic for today. And I am a Principal Water Resources Specialist with the San Diego County Water Authority. We're an organization that has really been working hard on water transfers and exchanges lately, and using that as a tool for financial affordability. So I think that this topic is really well suited for us. I am Alex Heide, a Principal Water Resources Specialist here, and I manage the Water Authority's Metropolitan Water District program. I'm here to present what we think is the next era of water resources management, which is sharing in the investments that we've made. And we've done some really innovative things with partner agencies, both within the Southern California region and interstate in the Southwest. So I'll introduce it with a little bit of background on who the Water Authority is. We are a wholesale water provider for our 22 member retail agencies. We serve about 3.3 million people in a $268 billion regional economy. We're unique in that each of our member agencies is represented on our 38-member board and is directly involved in our decision-making process. The only other agency that's similar to that is Metropolitan. We are also Metropolitan's second largest member agency after the city of Los Angeles, and we operate a system of approximately 300 miles of large diameter pipelines. Important to note for the Water Authority is that we have little to no naturally occurring water supplies. Unlike areas to our north, we have very limited groundwater, and most of our local water supplies comes from surface water reservoirs that were built in the late 1800s or early 1900s. And for most of our history, that has meant relying on imported water from the Metropolitan Water District. As you can see, in 1991, we were about 95% reliant on imported water. In the 90s, there was a major drought, and the Water Authority embarked on a water supply diversification initiative that significantly changed that reliance on imported water coming from Metropolitan. Here's what that investment in diversification looks like. In blue, you can see at the bottom our regional and local supplies. In green, you can see our imported supplies purchased from Metropolitan. And across the top there is our region's total water use. And I think a chart tells, can tell a lot of different stories. And I think it's worth unpacking a little bit more about why this chart is important for the Water Authority and our story. So starting in the mid-2000s, you can see a significant drop in water use. This is both from a very strong messaging campaign associated with the drought and also historic investment in water use efficiency and conservation initiatives. Since the 1990s, our investments in water use efficiency have caused our per capita water use to decline over 50%. And that's why you see that precipitous drop in total water use throughout the region. Then, about the same time that we were investing in water use efficiency, we also started to make once in a generation investments in supply diversification. As you can see from 2004 through the 2020s, the regional and local supplies starts to increase quite a bit, and the supply from metropolitan starts to decline. In the early 2000s, we invested hundreds of millions of dollars into on-farm water use efficiency in the Imperial Valley and transferred that into San Diego County. That was part of the QSA. We also invested in the lining of the All-American and Coachella canals. And to date, we've invested over $1 billion in that water supply investment. Then a little bit later in 2015, we've seen an additional bump in that regional and local supplies. And that's from our $1 billion investment in the Carlsbad desalination plant. I think it's important to point out that both these investments are significant and they required long-term agreements. They were structured in this manner because it required a significant amount of capital in order to bring these supplies online. And both the Water Authority and our partners who were part of this supply development needed that long-term reliability, stability, and predictability in order to make these water supply investments work. Now, when we look a little bit into the future, you can see that our regional water supplies start to exceed our total water use. It's not only because of our investments in projects like Carlsbad and the Quantification Settlement Agreement, or the QSA, but also from our continued investments in water use efficiency and some of our member agencies' investments in next generation potable reuse projects. What you can see here is incremental increases in water supplies, and those are predominantly from the projects that you see here on the screen, our pure water projects that are starting to come online. And while this is a challenge for the Water Authority, given that we had signed long-term agreements for other water supplies, it also presents us with a great opportunity. And really, this excess supplies here is what we're going to focus on for the remainder of the presentation. So seeing this as the likely future, the Water Authority started to look at ways on how to adapt to this change condition. We started to develop a program that would satisfy some of these goals here. We were looking to maximize our ratepayers' existing investments in the system, leverage our in-service area and out-of-service area investments in conservation, and continue to enable local supply development within our own service area. We also wanted to provide long-term durability and predictability for both the Water Authority and our member agencies, and not rely on any new or the creation of additional infrastructure like pipelines or interconnections. There was a great opportunity that arose during the settlement of our rate litigation between the Water Authority and Metropolitan, and we started to formalize an exchange program through that settlement agreement. And in 2025, that settlement agreement was signed, and this exchange framework was put into place where we could share water supplies with other Metropolitan member agencies or Metropolitan themselves. So we started to look for partners within the Metropolitan service area who had similar goals and values to the Water Authority. In 2025, we approached all of the other Metropolitan member agencies to let them know of the opportunity to exchange water supplies with the Water Authority. And shortly thereafter, Western Municipal Water District approached us. And a little bit after that, Eastern Municipal Water District approached us. These are two wholesale and retail water agencies in Riverside County who also represent two fast-growing regions that were looking for long-term predictability and reliability and saw that in the Water Authority supplies. They were also looking for a cost-effective way to make investments in water supplies that were highly reliable. And in April and May of this year, we executed a landmark agreement with both of those two agencies. Those agreements deliver 20,000 acre feet through the year of 2047. It includes clauses that allow them to increase that amount if they choose to do so. It also uses Metropolitan's existing infrastructure and doesn't require either agency to develop anything new or additional, which means that they don't have to take on any additional capital costs. They don't have to take on any risk associated with long lead times or having to go through any of the legwork that is required for new capital projects. And I should point out that these agreements are scalable. They're something that allow both the Water Authority or Eastern and Western to scale them up in the future if desired, and is something that us as water agencies really saw a lot of value in. So how do these types of agreements work? It's not all that complicated. Here in San Diego County, we pay for on-farm conservation and canal lining in the Imperial Valley. In the Imperial Valley, they leave that water in the Colorado River, and Metropolitan brings it in on the Colorado River Aqueduct. And normally those supplies make their way to San Diego County. Now, Eastern and Western and Riverside County will pay the Water Authority, and some of that supply will now make it to Eastern and Western. It's important to know that these agreements with Western and Eastern are for our QSA supplies, because that's what is included under our agreement with the Metropolitan Water District when we signed it in 2025. When you look at this agreement, there really are quite a bit of shared benefits for each of the agencies listed here on the side for the Water Authority, for Western, Eastern, and Metropolitan. And it really is a win-win partnership. The Water Authority gets to adapt to change conditions by optimizing our existing supplies and infrastructure. And by doing so, it helps us to strengthen our financial sustainability and leverage the investments that San Diego County ratepayers have made. Western and Eastern are able to secure a highly reliable supply of water that doesn't require any new infrastructure and avoids capital project costs and risks that are associated with developing of capital projects. And Metropolitan, who is the key in functioning this type of arrangement, gets the revenue associated with moving the water and helps to provide drought resiliency for their member agencies. And this is really a partnership that is win-win-win, and it really helps to leverage investments made within the metropolitan service area. So looking at this model, we looked at another system that could benefit from this type of partnership, and that was the Colorado River. After a lot of work, in June of this year, we signed a memorandum of understanding, an MOU, with the parties listed here: Metropolitan, the Bureau of Reclamation, Southern Nevada Water Authority, the Central Arizona Project, and the Salt River Project, to develop a framework for interstate water transfers. The idea is very similar to what we're doing with Western and Eastern. It advances a framework that would allow the leveraging of the Water Authority's existing investments in desalination and water reuse to help with shortage on the Colorado River, and would help with affordability in the region to allow entities, particularly in Arizona, to get supplies at a time of significant cutback. So looking at how this would work, a very similar model to how it works with Western and Eastern. The same basic setup. You've got San Diego County, Imperial County, both here in California. Then you've got Lake Havasu, and then on the other side of Havasu, you have the state of Arizona. And here we've got the Water Authority's investment in Carlsbad, which Arizona would pay for a portion of that investment. That water then gets consumed here in San Diego County. We would tell Imperial County to leave a portion of that water supply in Lake Havasu for Arizona to then take delivery of that water. And it's pretty much as simple as that. And while it seems simple on its face, it is incredibly complicated and something that has never been done before. And we have a team, along with a team of other parties, working on how to make this actually work. Given that there are going to be significant cutbacks to parties in Arizona and across the Southwest, for everyone on the Colorado River, there's a lot of those parties see a lot of value in the potential for reliable, predictable water supplies that the Water Authority has invested in. And you see that through the interest that those parties have shown in their tours through our Carlsbad plant. We're currently working with Reclamation and the other MOU signatories to help develop a scalable framework to allow a pathway for water to move from one state to another. And it's, again, while simple, it's something that has never been done before. And Reclamation needs a framework to account for how the water can move from state A to state B. As you can see here, this is just a snapshot of some of the parties that we've given tours to here in Carlsbad, and is a significant move forward on the Colorado River, and something to be really excited with. So what does this all mean for the Water Authority? Um, Here is the Water Authority's long-range financial plan, which was projected prior to us doing exchanges. What you can see here on the slide is each of our rate years, with the anticipated rate increase for each year. You can see it ranges from a low of 3.9% in 2032 to a high of 10.6% in 2035. So this just gives you an idea of what kind of our financial picture looked like for rates before we did the exchanges with Western and Eastern. This is what our rates look like post-exchange. It very These exchanges really moderated our rate increases to around inflation, and helped to create that stable, predictable financial picture that our member agencies were really looking for. And this is, a significant financial benefit for the Water Authority. And while it's important for the Water Authority, this is also something that's important for Western and Eastern, because they're seeing savings by not having to invest in more expensive supply development. So this is, I think, really highlights that a win-win partnership is good for everyone. In summary, we really think the next era of water management isn't just about building that new infrastructure. It's about maximizing every investment we've made through partnerships. Exchanges are a really efficient and effective tool for allowing agencies to leverage those investments in existing supplies for the benefit of the entire region. And it's important to know, why do we need to develop another project that has more impact on the environment and rates, and has a much longer lead time, when we can invest in, supplies that have already been built within the region. With that, that concludes my presentation. I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Susan Till, who will provide a little bit more about herself and take it on from here.
Hi. First off, I just want to say thank you to Alex. That was a great presentation. As a geographer, I really appreciated the maps. So my name is Suzanne Till. I currently am an elected official, a director for Division 2, Padre Dam Municipal Water District. Today, I'm speaking as a private citizen of San Diego County. My expertise is I do hold a PhD in water resources geography from the University of Colorado Boulder. So I'm going to be quick. I'd love to see a discussion on this. But basically, there are 4 items that I want to discuss about the water transfers. I'm especially focusing on the Eastern and Western Municipal Water District in Riverside. I don't know much about the current water transfers concerning Arizona and Nevada. Thank you, Alex. That was the first time I saw that. So there are 4 points. First is the desalinated water. It is privatized water, and I want to make sure that people are clear about this because it's rarely mentioned. I was able to look at a part of the contract between Eastern and Western that was released for the public, and the numbers are just not adding up for me how this is beneficial to the ratepayer. Another issue I'd like to bring up is transparency. And there was a significant hearing concerning fiscal sustainability and governance on County Water Authority. And also, I really acknowledge, thank you, Alex, for talking about the purified water coming in, but I'm still looking for a plan. What does the drop in demand due to projects like ours, East County Advanced Purification Project, what does that mean for rates for County Water Authority? I don't think I have control, Gary. Can you go me to the next slide? Great. Gary, can you pull up the channel side website? Great. So this is the first item I wanted to talk about, which is expensive and privatized water produced at the Carlsbad desalination plant. The San Diego County Water Authority water supplies from Channelside Carlsbad is probably the most expensive developed water supply in the United States. And what has happened, yes, San Diegans have conserved, but San Diego County ratepayers are using less and less water, and ratepayer water bills continue to increase. And so we're in this kind of vicious cycle now of very expensive water. And I see that in my neighborhood. There are maybe green lawn, and that is one of the things that I've talked to my voters about. Everybody just doesn't landscape anymore. I also found this interesting too when I went onto the website today. I'm going to see, here's the about. Oops, if I can get it to work. I want about us. And it's interesting that Channelside does not advertise, their ownership throughout the whole website, except here. This is all I could find right here. The most alarming San Diego County Water Authority business transaction is the take-or-pay contract for desalinated water produced in Carlsbad. This contract guarantees profit for private investors of Channelside, a for-profit company located in Europe. San Diego County Water Authority's yearly water rate increases have been providing profit for Channelside's investors at the expense of San Diego County San Diego County ratepayers. Now, County Water Authority staff say that Channelside's desalinated water makes San Diego County drought-proof. But my question is, what is the true cost? The costs are increased greenhouse gas emissions. That is a primary cost associated with desalinated water. It's very energy intensive, destruction of California's marine life, and what we get in San Diego now, overpriced water. Can we go to the next slide? Okay. And according to the County Water Authority, the only solution to expensive privatized desalinated water are water transfers between Eastern and Western MWD. I have been asking since May for the Riverside County water transfer contracts to be made public. And a friend of mine sent me the link last week and said, hey, they're there. And I reviewed these contracts. And I will say the contracts are missing documents like water pricing tables and certain exhibits. So I really had incomplete information, but I calculated. And if you can go ahead and, oh, this is the wrong slide. So just want to let you know, go up to the previous slide. I just noticed that. Thank you. Can you pull up the link for County Water Authority? Okay. So if we scroll down here, and I really appreciate this page, devoting this, we've been asking something like this. I don't know if I can scroll down or not. Whoops. I don't know if I can. Let me see if I can. Oh, I can. So here is one transfer agreement right here. And you probably can't read it, but if you go down to page 3 of the water transfer contract, and this is incomplete information, but the price that Eastern is paying, at least on this contract, is $633 per acre foot for untreated water. Now, the rate for County Water Authority member agencies like Padre Dam is $1,500 per acre foot. So it's hard for me to add up the numbers on the water transfer deal. The press is telling us that the county will receive more desalinated water due to these water transfers, and the cost of water for desalination is between $3,600 to $4,000 an acre foot. County Water Authority is selling water for $633 per acre foot to the Riverside County water agencies, and I'm asking, how can County Water Authority make up the difference? And how are these sales saving money? Why is it that member agencies in San Diego County are paying nearly 60% more for water than Riverside County agency? All right, let's go to the next slide, please. Okay, go ahead and pull up the website link. Thank you very much, Gary. All right, so for the past 5 years, in my humble opinion, transparency and accountability to the public from the San Diego County Water Authority has been a rare event. Enter the San Diego County Local Area Commission to conduct oversight of the County Water Authority. On May 4th, 2026, the San Diego County Local Area Formation Commission, we call LAFCO, presented a draft municipal service review, or an MSR, designed to assess independently the overall performance, governance, and sustainability of County Water Authority. And Dr. Michael Hanneman, a professor of environmental economics, and the staff, they wrote a great report, did a great presentation, and I provided that link for you to see. And they recommended it's time, let's send this out for a public review. However, San Diego City Council member Stephen Whitburn, who is also a director at the San Diego County Water Authority, successfully led an effort to terminate the MSR. There will be no public review. Director Whitburn's justification for the MSR termination was an article in the Wall Street Journal on County Water Authority's success concerning Eastern and Western water transfers. Now, I have said to County Water Authority, I've asked, in the spirit of government transparency, I've asked the County Water Authority Board to support an independent peer-reviewed MSR study by LAFCO. San Diego County voters deserve, in my opinion, decisions based upon data, science, and public review, not simply reporting from the Wall Street Journal. Okay, so can we go to the next slide? All right, so you could go ahead and click on the link. I'm really glad that Alex brought up about the water purification coming on board. And I just kind of want to give you the perspective from the agency that I work with. Why is it that we're doing this? So in 2027, Padre Dam will be producing up to 30% of its water supply with water purification. The cost of our water, purified water, is expected to be between $2,000 to $2,200 per acre foot. Why does this process cost less than desalination? Well, first, water purification uses significantly less energy than desalination, and Padre Dam will be generating energy using biofuels from water purification. So again, less energy, and also we are generating our own energy. And also the cost of moving that purified water to storage is much less than the cost of moving the desalinated water from the Carlsbad plant up to San Marcos. We built that plant at Padre Dam primarily to stabilize the ever-increasing water rates imposed by County Water Authority. And it's not only us, but the city of San Diego will be coming online, and Oceanside already has that going. To summarize, the next slide. First, we are trying to fix a problem of privatized water with take-or-pay contracts. And basically, essentially, water is being sold for for profit to European investors. I have said this before to the County Water Authority. It is the job of government to build and maintain infrastructure for the people, the public, the ratepayer. It is not the job of government to ensure profit for foreign investors and subsequently increase year by year water rates for the people, the public, and the ratepayers. The cost of water to Riverside County. Again, please let me know if my calculations are off. I have very incomplete information, but I looked at it and it was $633 per acre foot. and the cost for water for county water authority member agencies is $1,500 per acre foot. This business model, in my opinion, is backwards. Riverside Water District should pay $1,500 or even more per acre foot, and we in San Diego County should pay $633 per acre foot. One other thing I wanted to show you too is about the rate increases. This did come up at the last county water authority meeting. Those rate increases are for untreated water. The rate increase for treated water, at least according to one director who brought it up, is 4.5%. So it's a definite jump for treated water. And again, this is due to energy costs. There's lack of transparency and accountability. I don't understand why this MSR was terminated. Why not have a peer review? And why is selling water the only alternative for county water authority? Why don't we have a range of alternative analysis in the MSR for county water authorities' fiscal sustainability and governance? There are issues with governance with the county water authority that was not brought up, and that is discussed very well in the MSR. And finally, lack of attention for planning and even more demand decrease due to water purification in San Diego County. Water purification costs significantly less than desalinated water. There are very few environmental impacts. In my opinion, the future is water purification. There are less greenhouse gas emitted, potential to generate energy, zero destruction of marine life, and purified water contributes to the San Diego River, Santee Lakes Recreation Preserves, and Lake Jennings for surface water storage, and then also for wetlands ecosystems that clean up our water. In addition, San Diego County is not fully utilizing our surface water storage capacity. Both Lake Hodges in North San Diego County and El Capitan Reservoir in East San Diego County cannot be filled to capacity due to aging dams and infrastructure. We all know that surface water is the cheapest and cleanest water. So my vote is not to rely solely upon overpriced desalinated water, but put our funds and focus on water purification and improving surface water storage in San Diego County. Next slide, please. So first off, I want to say thank you. These are wood duck, baby ducks that we have at Santee Lakes. I encourage you all to visit. We at Pottery Dam were the first people in the first district to recycle water. And now we are into the next generation, moving to water purification. And there are great benefits too. And this is water for wildlife. Over 230 bird species visit Santee Lakes every year. And we're very proud to have a sustainable alternative. Thank you. Oh, and the next thing I want to do is turn it over to Dee Zink with Southern California Metropolitan Water District. Thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne. We're going to go ahead and get going on our Q&A right now. And again, we're trying to focus on these potential for exchanges across our service area and potentially outside of the service area. For just a reminder for everybody, to the way to ask a question is to type it into the Q&A box. We then walk through each of the questions. If you're interested in making sure that a question gets answered, then you can give it a thumbs up and bring it up to the top. And I will be reading through the questions as we go. So with that, thank you both for turning your cameras on, and thank you both for being here today. Really appreciate the presentations and the chance to discuss these opportunities for exchanges. So the first question is from Bill Green, and he asks about avocado growers. It says many have fouled, I think this may be fallowed, their groves as Mexico and the FAFTA opened up supplying fruit and forcing out growers. In 2010, ag water allocations were cut 30%, and many groves were cut down. And so this seems like it was a huge reduction in water demand, which reduced the amount of import as well as conservation by water customers. What are San Diego's, it says our and consideration, but I think, Alex, this is a question for you about where are we heading with ag, and in particular avocado growers in the region, and how has that influenced some of the demands in the San Diego area? That's my interpretation. And Bill, if I don't get it right, you're free to retype in a question, but why don't you take a shot at that, Alex?
Yeah, I think that that's a great question. And it, ag is very closely tied to water. As you know, in particular, North San Diego County, we have quite a bit of avocado growers. Metropolitan used to run a program called the Interim Agricultural Water Rate Program. They discontinued that program. Here in San Diego County, we have the Permanent Special Water Agricultural Rate Program, which is designed to help growers with their water rates. But um, as growers don't have the demand for either water or avocados, whatever their product is, and that demand, goes away, then it also declines our sales. And water sales are a function of your demand within your service area, and as that demand, goes away, rates will change because of it. So here in San Diego County, we've set up the Permanent Special Water Agricultural Rate Program. It's called PSAR. You can find it on the Water Authority's website, and it's something that we established a couple of years ago as a permanent program here to help with our agricultural water use.
Thank you, Alex. Go ahead,
Um,
Suzanne.
Padre Dam has actually started addressing this issue very recently. And also the local area formation commission is also very interested in this issue. This all came up when we had a small community farmer in Alpine come to us and say, my March bill was over $1,000 and I run a small family farm. I can't do this. So we looked into it, and we had this agriculture household apply for the low agricultural rates, but this farmer had to pay $50,000 a hookup fee for agricultural water, because we have to measure that water according to San Diego County Water Authority. According to LAFCO, every 3 days we are losing a small family farm in San Diego County, and the number one issue is cost of water. So LAFCO is starting to investigate this issue. There was even talks about setting up a special water district concerning agricultural water. And that is something that 2 directors on the Padre Dam Municipal Water District do support. We need to keep growing local food in San Diego County. We have to make farming affordable. And so this is something that is very timely, and that's a great question.
Okay, thank you. And again, let's going to try to make sure we're getting into the issues of the transfer, and we can talk about how these things work with exchanges. And Tony Wilkinson, I see your hand raised. If you could type your question into the Q&A, then we can make sure that our speakers get a chance to answer it. Thank you. So the next question is from John Earl. He actually has a 2-part question. He's asking how much of the water in Lake Havasu is paper water, and how could that affect the security of out-of-state investors in the Carlsbad's desal plant? So that's one. Why don't we take it one at a time, Alex, to see if you can respond to this concept of paper water. And for not everybody understands what that is, so maybe you could describe what paper water is before you answer that, and then we'll get into the second part.
Yeah, good question. And paper water is really just a mechanism by which, water is accounted from one area and would go into another area, whether it be in-state or out-of-state. So it's not actually physical water. It's just an accounting mechanism that the Bureau would use to move the water from the ownership of one person or entity to another. As far as I'm aware, I mean, water, I think the question was how much water stored in Havasu is paper water. I'll check with our Colorado River group, but I don't know that any stored water, because it's physically stored, is paper water, if that makes sense. So I may not be understanding that question entirely. And then D, you said there was a second part?
Yeah, there's a second part to this question, and I think you're right. I think the water behind the dam is all real water, and we're trying to figure out how do we deal with less of it on the river. So, okay, question number 2 is the Trump administration's Bureau of Reclamation supports massive desal projects in the Sea of Cortez and along the California coast to help with our Southwest Regional Colorado River crisis. Do you support these kinds of proposals? And the question is for both speakers. So why don't we go first to Suzanne, and Alex will come back to you.
Yes, Scott Cameron with the Bureau of Reclamation is very supportive of desal plants all along the California coast and to power those, possibly offshore drilling. Let me tell you how energy intensive desal is. To get that salt out of the water, we have to pump that water at nearly 2,000 psi to get that salt and everything out of the water at the desal plant. For the plant for water purification, we only have to use 200 psi. That's it. And that's what you need. You're literally taking energy, and it's very similar to what they do in Saudi Arabia, and turn oil into water. And personally, I do not want to see California turn into the Saudi Arabia model. Scott Cameron also spoke at the Western Water Law Center, where I got my PhD at University of Colorado Boulder. And I found that really disconcerting that he was the only one speaking. There should have been somebody else speaking, concerning this topic, especially from the California perspective. Thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne. I didn't hear you say it, but Scott Cameron was the acting commissioner of the Bureau of Reclamation. So he's been directly involved in the negotiations on the shortages across the Colorado River Basin. And that's who that is, who's been weighing in on potential projects. Alex, go ahead.
Yeah. So, I think from the water authority's perspective, desalination has its place and is, within our portfolio, it's highly reliable. That being said, it's definitely not a silver bullet, and it is costly. But that's also a decision that, each local entity would need to make for themselves, right? Whether it's a local decision if they want to make that kind of investment, or do, whatever project they may be considering. I don't know what specifically Scott Cameron was referencing when he made that statement, but ultimately it's up to those agencies to weigh those benefits and costs for their own individual region. I do think our focus on solutions that maintain reliability and affordability is something that a lot of agencies are looking at moving forward. But I think it's for each local agency to make that local decision.
Thank you, Alex. And just for disclosure, Metropolitan has got a study that they have recently done and will be presenting about desal for this region. So there are a lot of folks that are looking into this question. Okay, so the next question is from Bill Green, and it's to you, Alex. Can San Diego County Water Authority share Eric Miller's report of the myth as to de minimis harm to marine life on outfall brine? Well, he's asking to share it with Suzanne, so I guess Suzanne's, you've asked for this. But in any case, maybe you could talk a little bit about what this is, and just so that people are understanding who Eric Miller is and what this is about.
Yeah, that's going to be one that I'm not familiar with, so I will make sure that we follow up to make sure I'm not the technical person on desal, so we'll make sure we get an answer to that question.
I'm not familiar with that report either, but basically the EIR for the desal plant is posted on the Channel Side website, and a fellow director, Kim Hales from Padre Dam Municipal Water District, Division 4, who is a biologist, did review that, and she did feel that there were some problems associated with the amount of the brine that gets sent out and the changes in salinity and what this means for coastal marine ecosystem. And we all know at the intake valve, microscopic organisms, which are really baby fish and shellfish, get destroyed in the process. I thought it was really hilarious at the Huntington Beach hearings on a large-scale desal plant. Somebody dressed up as SpongeBob Plankton running around saying, "Please don't kill me." And we all know that's really important. So those are the main issues, but I have not read that report.
Thank you, Suzanne. We're talking about in exchange for supplies that are already in existence. Is that right, Alex? I just want to make sure we're being clear about what these exchanges are and what other issues may be out there, but that you're talking about exchanging existing supplies.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. The supplies that we've already developed, invested here within the Water Authority, not, whatever X project, it's existing supply.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. All right, our next question is from Charming Evelyn. If the Colorado River is drying up with new regulations coming down anytime now from the Bureau of Reclamation, BOR, exactly how much water does San Diego County Water Authority think they will have for this water exchange? So I think, Alex, if you could respond to that.
Yeah, good question. And, by and large, this is not a solution to the entirety of the Colorado River problem, right? I mean, it's a very significant issue. You see Arizona maybe taking up to 700,000 acre feet in potential cuts. The water that we would have available for potential exchange is just a small drop in the bucket for what is ultimately needed in the Colorado River. We think the amount that we would have available long term could be up to 50,000-ish acre feet, somewhere around there. But we're going to start out with a pilot project at something much less than that. So all that's being worked through a framework, and it by and large will not be the solution to the Colorado River's issues.
I would like to comment on that too. I actually met with Adam Schiff's staff on this last week. And as a scientist, I rely on data and science. And we all know that we're basing these allocations on 1926 data over 100 years, almost 100 years ago. So I think, hopefully, if there is a change in the governance, that at the federal level, that we do gather all that data and look at what is the true discharge of the Colorado River today, 100 years later, and use those numbers than going by the law of the river.
Thank you, Suzanne. And I think in general, you use the term discharge, but you're talking about the overall water supply available on the Colorado River and the changing hydrology that we've all been seeing and experiencing. So that is a big aspect of why folks are looking at alternative options for managing supplies on the river. So thank you for that. Okay, the next question is from Bill Green. Oh, sorry. The next question is from Diane Wallace. Thank you for confirming, Bill. And we touched on this as well, Diane, about paper water. So I think we've covered that. So let's go to Christine Carson. This is a question for you, Alex. In regard to potential interstate transfers, could you clarify if additional infrastructure is contemplated, or would they rely primarily on paper exchanges and accounting and existing infrastructure? So maybe this is where the paper is coming in.
Yeah.
Even if it's real water that's moving.
Yeah. So to your point, the real water moving, but it's no new infrastructure is being contemplated. It's water that we would back off of from our existing supplies. That water would be left in the Colorado River and would then go to another party. And while it's wet water, it's an accounting mechanism that the Bureau would use to actually allow that partner to divert that water into their system. And we would consume the desal water here in San Diego County. We wouldn't physically move it into Lake Mead or Lake Powell or Havasu or anything like that. It would be, all consumed here in San Diego County. No new infrastructure.
Thank you, Alex. Okay, our next question is from Dirk Marks, and the question is, what is the structure of the payments San Diego County Water Authority makes for desal water? I think you touched on this a little bit in your presentation, and Suzanne, you did as well, but could you also include in your answer the incremental cost to produce additional supplies for transfers to other parties?
Yeah, so there's a lot wrapped up in that question, and I don't know what the incremental cost is offhand. Roughly, the cost for us to produce desal supplies is $3,500-ish an acre foot. But with incrementally, that would be to produce to partners. We're not necessarily talking about a expansion beyond what the plant is at. So there's not really an incremental cost. We pay a contract rate with the producer. So, I think what they're trying to get at is in terms of what our partners would pay is it would be, they would pay a portion or the full desal rate that, the water authority pays to our producer, but that all will be negotiated as part of a contractual arrangement and, will be determined through those negotiations. So we'll see.
Thank you, Alex. Suzanne, did you want to say anything on that?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay. All right, thank you. The next question is from Karen Henry. And the question is, how conservative are the water demand forecasts? Wouldn't we be planning for a range of scenarios? That's the first question. The second question, and I can do this in two parts if you'd like, won't state mandates such as AB 1572 prohibiting irrigating decorative turf with potable water further lower regional demands in water sales? So Alex, I'm going to pitch both to you again. How conservative are the demand forecasts, and wouldn't we be planning for a range of scenarios? And then what's happening with the implementation of statewide conservation measures?
Yeah, I think that this is a great question, and actually one that when we did our urban water management plan, we contemplated. Our water resources group did scenario planning when they put together our demand projections to make sure that we were planning for a range of potential futures. And I do think that this is an important part to highlight where there's benefits for transfers and exchanges, is that very rarely does the supply that you develop actually match what you within your service area are consuming. And transfers and exchanges, because they don't require any new infrastructure, are highly flexible to either scale up or scale down as needed, assuming you have the right contractual arrangements. So, I would pitch transfers and exchanges as a highly flexible way to adapt to changing future conditions so that you can better match your supplies and demands. I do think that state mandates will have an impact on your demand. And, I think use the Western and Eastern agreement as a potential way for agencies to look at to, if you've developed supplies, help better match that future supply or demand that you have. So I think it's a great question.
Yes, that's a really good question. One of the things that's coming on with climate change in the Western United States is called variability, highly variable. We may get super wet years, and then we might go through years of drought. For example, next year, there is predicted to be a very strong El Nino, and San Diego County is not ready for this whatsoever. We should be filling our reservoirs, and we can't fill our reservoirs because Lake Hodges Dam is somewhat damaged and very old. And the same with the El Capitan Reservoir, too. These are two huge reservoirs. The other nice thing about those reservoirs, too, is they act as fire breaks. I personally did witness down in Chula Vista how the Otay Mountain fire basically stopped at the Otay Reservoir. So that's issue number one. concerning conservation, that boat has taken off. If you go look around at homeowners and how businesses are now basically landscaping, which is most of our water use, you see more California friendly, which I appreciate. Met and Water Authority has really pushed that landscaping out there. And go to a California Native Plant Society sale in San Diego County, and it is packed. The other thing that I'm seeing a lot is everybody's really interested in the monarch butterfly plight, and they're planting butterfly gardens, which are very drought tolerant. I have a beautiful desert willow right outside my front yard, attracting butterflies all summer. And people ask me, what is that? Can I get that? And then I found out Costco is selling the desert willow. So I think it's yes, the legislature might reduce the demand, but the consumers are going clearly towards a California friendly, more water conservation ethic.
Thank you, Suzanne. This next question is not really a question, it's a comment. And I'm going to try to see if I can't pull it back around to exchanges because that's the topic of the day. So this is from Tony Wilkinson. He says it's not a question, but a comment. And it talks about LADWP, but it's getting at the recycled water issue. LADWP is supposedly an independent city department, but it's a huge water and power system. It is not effectively politically captured by short-term environmental causes and less able to make long-term decisions to reduce long-term impacts to its ratepayers. This is Tony's framing. In particular, LADWP is facing huge recycled water costs from a project to treat all of its sewer output for reuse. Costs for a very early power greening to 100% will burden ratepayers on the same bill with water, where recycled water capital costs may have higher real urgency. We need help with the whole recycled water versus desal issue. See above comment about administration favoring desal. How can the huge but hidden DWP operation benefit from the cost discussions in more public agencies? So this is a question about new water supplies coming online. I'm just going to wait in here a little bit because one of the exchanges that has been discussed that is very similar to the water authorities is the exchange that Metropolitan's been talking about with, and that's actually really a purchase of investments by the potentially the Southern Nevada Water Authority and the Central Arizona Project and Metropolitan's Pure Water Project, which would operate in a similar fashion as having investments from outside the state coming in to support a regional project. But I'm on to invite either of you to talk about this comment about recycled water being a part of the solution and opportunities again with exchanges for new supplies.
Yeah, Gia, I'll take a stab at it, and then I think Susan will have a good perspective as well. I think that this is, one of the very interesting things about transfers and exchanges is that, with before you were kind of limited to investments that you made within your service area or consumed within your service area, and now with the concept of a transfer or an exchange, someone else can make that investment in your service area. You can develop that supply and you can both reap the benefits from that investment. And it does help to maybe offset some of that cost burden that some of your own ratepayers would pick up, and is a really efficient way to look at, a new business model for agencies, particularly on the coast, that have access to alternative supplies that they may not have inland. When you look at, recycling and all that, I mean, Met's looking at that with the Pure Water Project, and you can see significant interest from Southern Nevada and Arizona. So it is, I mean, I don't know if DWP is looking at external investments, but it might be a mechanism for them to reduce that financial burden on their ratepayers. But likewise, your partner agencies also want to see some proportional share of that benefit as well. So it does go both ways. I'll hand it over to Suzanne.
Hi, thanks. Alex, that sounds really fascinating and something I definitely like to hear some more information on, having outside interests invest in, to get these projects going. So how we formed our East County Advanced Water Purification Project, this is a JPA between Padre Dam Metropolitan Water District, Helix Water District, City of El Cajon, and San Diego County Water Authority. And sharing the load of infrastructure is definitely the way to go. On a comment, recycled water for us, and I'm saying recycled, we are losing money on that right now. And that's the extra infrastructure needed, the purple pipes for recycled water. We will be getting rid of the whole recycled water. We just shut down the plant a couple of months ago program. We haven't done it yet, but we will be. And everything will be on purified water at that point. That makes us, just much more economic value and sense for us. So that's what we're doing here locally.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Suzanne. And Alex, this is something that Water Authority has been supportive of and involved in as well. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I should mention that for all of our agencies that are investing in that next generation advanced purified water, the Water Authority and Metropolitan both have put significant resources toward their LRP, the local resources program, subsidies that they receive to help develop that local supply. So it's something that both of our agencies have been very supportive of.
Yes, we appreciate the LRP very much. Thank you.
Good. Okay, our next question is from Isabella Murdy, and actually it's not a question. She's just noting that the Water Authority has publicized the Eric Miller report and provided a link. So for folks interested in that, you can find it on this link here. So I'm going to go on, and Tony Wilkinson commented that we can't exchange any recycled water unless we build it first, and it does require money, and that's true. This is one of the challenges that we're facing, is that the scarcity of water generally is making us turn to more expensive supplies, and we're having to try to balance that. But I don't know if either one of you want to comment on the comment.
Well, the only thing maybe just to bring up is, the Water Authority back in the 90s was wholly reliant on Metropolitan. And, I think we saw at that point in time that was a potential risk. And investment in diversification, it is something that is important for, all regions to look at, so that they aren't so reliant on any one single source, because it could be a point of failure. So, investment in that diversification is, I think, something that more agencies are looking toward, especially when they see potential risks on both the State Water Project and on the Colorado River.
Thank you, Alex.
As an elected official, the thing I can say by participating in party politics, and by the way, I'm pretty much a nonpartisan office, and I represent the ratepayers and the voters. I think we need to move forward very aggressively on educating the political parties and the candidates on infrastructure. Last year I ran for state senate and I pulled out due to finances, wasn't getting the donations. And I know infrastructure isn't sexy, but that's what we did in the 20th century really well. We built infrastructure. And now we know about the environmental impacts of our infrastructure, and we can really go to town and create a more sustainable, affordable future. But we need politicians willing to support infrastructure. And so one thing I heard from Aqua was 85% of water costs are carried by the ratepayer. That's really high. And this is something we did at Padre Dam. We brought in $935 million of funding from federal government sources, state sources, tax incentives, and That's a lot of work on the water districts too. So I kind of refer this back to Aqua and other groups, but we really need to start working with our legislators, because at least from the legislators I've interviewed, there's not enough emphasis on infrastructure. It's an oh, by the way, and infrastructure creates thriving economies.
Thank you, Suzanne. And I see Connor has turned his camera on. I also want to acknowledge we had another comment from Bill Green about the South Coast Water District. And he's specifically trying to provide information to anybody that is interested in their water transfers to inland water participants from the Doheny Ocean desal project. So I'm just going to call that to your attention so that you see it there, because there really isn't a question there, and nor are the rest of the comments from Tony Wilkinson questions, but comments on where we stand. So Connor, I'll turn this over to you now to close us out for the day. I want to
Thank you,
thank the
Dee.
speakers.
Yeah, I want to thank everyone involved, especially both of our speakers, Alex and Suzanne. I think it's an excellent discussion. We don't solve any of the issues in our dialogue, but we bring up a lot of issues and questions that need to be heard by everyone. So thank you all for participating. And if I took off my moderator hat for a moment, those who know me know that I've been involved in the ocean desalination issue for a long time. I've also been involved in Colorado River. So what's happening now in the Colorado River, you may have seen the article in the LA Times today about the lowest levels for both Lake Powell and Lake Mead. It's been going on for 26 years, and it's not drought. There have been 2 wet years in that. It's really the climate change extremes that we have been talking about for a long time, and now they're happening and the results are happening. So how we invest and what we do and what changes may be imposed on us in terms of cuts are going to be for immediate, cost-effective local solutions. So with that, I want to say good night and good luck, and thank you all very much. Our next meeting is on September 26th. Please join us.